The room was filled with laughter, lights, and the soft music Maya loved. Her friends were gathered, holding balloons and a cake that read Happy 38th Maya, but all she could think about was him. He stood near the window, phone in his hand, looking distracted. For the last few weeks, he had been distant. Maya tried not to overthink it, but today was supposed to be special. After 4 years together, she had hoped for something more. A proposal maybe, a sign that she mattered. She wore the dress he once said made her look like sunshine. She even curled her hair the way he liked. Yet he hadn't complimented her once tonight. As the candles flickered, Maya smiled and cut the cake. Cameras clicked, friends cheered, but inside, she felt empty. When the guests left, and the room quieted down, she turned to Royle and asked softly, "Can we talk?" He nodded, and sat. On the couch, she took a breath. "I thought maybe tonight, you had something planned, something special for us." He looked away. "Maya, I didn't want to ruin your birthday, but I think we should talk too." Her heart sank. She sat down beside him. "What is it?" he sighed. "I've been thinking a lot. About us. About the future. I don't think we're on the same page anymore." Maya's voice trembled. "After 4 years, you're saying this now?" Royle spoke carefully. "You're amazing, Maya, kind, smart, strong, but I want a family, kids, a long future. And you're 38 now." Silence fell. Maya stared at him, not sure she'd heard right. "What are you saying?" "I mean," he hesitated, "you're getting older. I just feel like time is running out, and I don't want to settle. I want someone younger. Someone who fits into the picture I've always imagined." The words hit like stones. "So I'm too old to be loved now," she whispered. Royle stood up. "It's not like that. I just think we're not right for each other anymore." And just like that, he picked up his coat and left. No hug, no goodbye. Just a door shutting behind him. Maya stood frozen. Her birthday balloons floated in the corner. The cake sat half-eaten. The silence was louder than the music had ever been. She walked to her room, removed her earrings, and sat by the window. Her reflection in the glass looked tired. Not old, just tired. She replayed his words. Too old, not the same page. Want someone younger? It wasn't just about age, it was about not being seen, not being enough. Her phone buzzed. She thought maybe it was Royle, but the number was unknown. The message read, "You deserve better. Watch the sunset tomorrow, Hilltop Park." She frowned. Who would send that? Her heart raced a little. Was this some kind of joke? She stared at the message for minutes. There was no name, no clue. She should ignore it, and yet she couldn't. The next day, Maya barely slept. She went to work, answered calls, and smiled at clients. But her mind kept drifting. By 5 p.m., she stood by her window again, watching the sky turn orange. Sunset. That message. Curiosity slowly pulled her in. She grabbed her shawl and keys. Maybe it was silly. Maybe it was nothing. But something inside told her to go. The park wasn't far. It sat on a hill that overlooked the whole city. Maya hadn't been there in years. As she climbed the narrow path, the cool breeze touched her face. The sun was slowly sinking behind the hills. A few people stood nearby, couples mostly, and then, she saw him. A man sitting alone on the bench facing the sunset. Tall, well, maybe late 30s or early 40s. As she approached, he turned. His eyes met hers like he was expecting her. "Maya," she paused. "Yes. Do I know you?" He smiled gently. "Not yet, but I know you." Her heart skipped. "You sent the message." He nodded. "I know it's strange. I'm sorry, but I had to. I saw what happened last night." "Were you at my party?" she asked, confused. He shook his head. "No, but I know Royle. I know what he said. I know how unfair it was." Maya stepped back slightly. "Are you his friend?" "No," he said calmly. "I'm just someone who knows how it feels to be left behind for the wrong reasons." She looked at him closely. His voice was calm, but there was pain behind it. He gestured to the bench. "May I?" She sat down slowly. "Why me?" she asked. "Why reach out?" He looked at the sky. "Because I saw someone worthy break inside, and I didn't want her to believe she was less. Just because someone else couldn't see her value." She turned to him. "Who are you?" He smiled faintly. "You can call me Arav. I'm no one special. Just a man who's been where you are." They sat in silence. The sun dipped lower. Maya felt her chest loosen, like she could finally breathe. She didn't know who this man was or why he had come. But something in her heart whispered, this was not the end. It was something new, maybe even the beginning. Arav stood up. "I'll see you again, Maya." She looked up. When the sky is this color again," he said, pointing to the golden horizon. He walked away slowly, leaving her with questions, and a spark of something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Maya couldn't stop thinking about him. That evening, the quiet man named Arav, who had appeared out of nowhere, spoken so kindly, and then disappeared like a breeze. She didn't know why, but his words stayed with her all night. "You deserve better. I'll see you again when the sky is this color." Who says things like that? And why did it feel like he truly meant them? The next day was quiet. No more messages. No unknown numbers. Royle didn't call. Maya went through her usual routine, woke up, worked from home, answered emails, but everything felt blurry. She looked at her phone again and again, hoping for something. Nothing. That evening, as the sky began to turn orange again, she felt pulled, like some invisible string tugged gently at her heart, telling her to go back to the park. She hesitated at first, telling herself she was being silly. But something deeper said, what if he's there? So once again, she found herself walking the same hill path. This time she felt less nervous, more curious. As she reached the same spot, she scanned the benches. Empty, she sat down, folded her arms, and sighed. Maybe he had just been passing through. Maybe he didn't mean anything by it. Maybe she had read too much into a moment of kindness. Just as she stood to leave, she heard a familiar voice behind her. Didn't think you'd come? She turned. There he was. Arav, dressed in a simple, gray sweater, holding 2 paper cups. You're late, she said without smiling. But her eyes softened. I had to wait in line, he said, handing her a cup. Chamomile tea. Thought you might need something calming? She took it with a hesitant thank you, and sat down again. They stared ahead at the sunset, comfortable in the silence. After a few moments, she spoke. So, how do you know Royle? Arav looked thoughtful. He's my client. I work with startup founders. He once pitched a product, and I helped him shape his company. Maya was surprised. So you really saw us that night? Arav nodded. I was delivering a document. I didn't mean to listen, but I saw your face when he said those words. She looked down, embarrassed. It wasn't my proudest moment. No, Arav said gently. It was one of your bravest. You didn't cry, didn't beg. You let him go. That takes strength. Maya sipped the tea. It was warm and light, just like this moment. She turned to him. Why do you care? He didn't answer right away. I've lost people too. Not because I wasn't enough, but because they thought I was too much, too emotional, too intense, too different. So I guess I know what rejection feels like. There was a pause. Maya saw something in his eyes, a deep sadness covered with calm. So what happened? She asked softly. My fiancée left me 2 years ago, Arav said, a month before our wedding. Said I was too settled and she wanted someone who made life exciting again. Maya felt her chest tighten. I'm sorry. He smiled a little. I'm not. It hurt then. But now, I'm glad she left before I tied my whole life to someone who didn't want the real me. Their eyes met. For the first time in a long time, Maya felt understood. Not judged, not pitied, just seen. She looked away quickly. I used to think love meant waiting for someone to choose me. I waited for years for Royle to decide, and he did, Arav said. He decided to walk away. That's not your failure. She nodded slowly. It still feels like one. He leaned slightly forward. What if this isn't an ending, Maya? What if it's the start of something better? She looked at him with a cautious smile. What if it isn't? Then we go home, Arav said, and try again tomorrow. Maya laughed for the first time in days. It was soft, but real. They sat for a while longer. As the sun dipped lower, a light breeze picked up. Arav stood and looked at the sky. Tomorrow? He asked. Maya hesitated, then said, same time? He nodded and turned to leave. As he walked away, Maya noticed something. A small notebook had fallen from his pocket onto the bench. She picked it up. Plain black cover. No name. She turned it over in her hands. Should I read it? She wondered. Hesitated but chose not to. Instead, she slipped it into her bag and decided to return it tomorrow. That night, she placed the notebook beside her bed. The thought of what could be inside made her restless. Who was this man who appeared from nowhere, said such gentle things, and quietly carried pain like hers? What was his story? And more importantly, why did it feel like hers was slowly starting to change? The next part of her life hadn't begun with a kiss or a promise. It had begun with silence, tea, and a man who simply sat beside her without trying to fix her. And for Maya, that was something completely new. She turned off the lamp and whispered into the dark, tomorrow. Maya woke up earlier than usual. The sky outside her window was still pale, not yet touched by sunrise. But her thoughts were already running about Arav, about the notebook, and the strange comfort she felt sitting next to someone she barely knew. She looked at the small black notebook on her bedside table. Last night she had promised herself she wouldn't open it. It wasn't hers. But now, in the quiet of morning, curiosity whispered louder. She picked it up, turned it in her hands again, and slowly opened the first page. To her surprise, there was no name, just a date. February 2nd, her birthday. The next line read, saw her again. Same soft eyes, same quiet strength. Still doesn't know who I am. Maya froze. She flipped to the next page. Another date, another entry. She laughs less now. I wonder if she remembers the old bookstore. I doubt it. I remember everything. A chill ran down her arms. What was this? The next few pages were filled with scattered thoughts, reflections, short entries, some about her, some unclear, but all emotional, all real. One line read, people think love begins with a moment. Mine began with silence. Across a dusty shelf, when her hand reached for the same book as mine, she shut the notebook quickly, her heart thudding. Could it be? Had she met Arav before? Suddenly she remembered, years ago, before Royle, before all this, she used to visit an old bookstore near her college, a small cozy place with mismatched chairs, and the smell of old paper. She had spent many evenings there, reading, sketching, dreaming. Was he there too? The thought both startled and touched her. She decided not to read more, not yet. It felt too private, but it also felt like a key to something long forgotten. Later that day, Maya dressed carefully not because she wanted to impress Arav, but because she wanted to feel good in her own skin. She wore a soft pink shawl and simple earrings. As she left the house, she carried the notebook with her at the hilltop park. The air was cooler than before. The sun hadn't set yet, but the sky was already glowing gold. She reached the bench and saw him standing there, looking over the city, his hands in his pockets. He turned as she approached and smiled. "You came back. I brought something," she said, holding out the notebook. He looked surprised. "I didn't even know it was missing. You dropped it yesterday," she said quietly. He took it, his fingers brushing hers for a second. "Thank you." Maya hesitated, then added, "I read a little." He paused, not angry, just still. "How much?" "Just the first few pages," she said. I stopped. It felt personal. Arav sat down on the bench and looked ahead. "I wrote those thoughts years ago. I didn't plan to show them to anyone, least of all you." Maya sat beside him. "So, it's true, we met before." He nodded. "At the bookstore. You probably don't remember. You used to come every Thursday, sit by the window, read for hours. You once helped a little girl pick out a fairy tale book. She hugged you. You smiled like the world had stopped." Maya blinked, stunned. I think I do remember that little girl. You always sat alone." Arav continued. "But you never looked lonely, just ... peaceful. I used to wonder what kind of world you lived in." "Why didn't you ever speak to me?" she asked. "I tried once," he said, chuckling. "I asked if the chair beside you was taken. You said yes and pointed to your bag." She laughed. "That sounds like me. You were out of my league," he added simply. "Back then, I was still figuring out my life." Maya turned toward him, and now, he looked at her. "Now I'm not afraid to sit beside you, not afraid to be seen." She felt a strange tightness in her chest, a warmth too. "But why now?" she asked. "Why not before a while? Before everything?" He looked down. "Maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe you weren't either." The wind blew gently. Leaves rustled around them. Maya's thoughts were spinning. "So, what is this?" she asked. "What are we doing?" Arav met her eyes. "We're just sitting, talking, watching sunsets. No pressure, no promises. Unless you want more." Maya didn't answer right away. "I don't know what I want yet." "That's okay," he said. "I'm not here to rush you. I'm just here." They sat in silence again. But it wasn't empty. It was full of unspoken thoughts, shared space, and something that felt like the beginning of healing. As the sky turned from gold to deep orange, Arav stood up. "I'm going to walk down before it gets too dark." Maya nodded. "Okay." He paused. "Will you come again tomorrow?" "I think so," she said. He smiled. "Same time, same sky," she replied. He walked away slowly, and Maya sat watching the last of the sun disappear behind the hills. She pulled the notebook from her bag again and flipped to a random page. This one read, "Maybe love isn't about being chosen. Maybe it's about being found, silently, fully, gently." Maya closed the notebook and pressed it to her chest. She didn't know where this would lead, but she knew this much. Now she had not been forgotten. She had been seen, and that changed everything. Maya woke up with a strange feeling in her heart, nervousness mixed with peace. It had been 3 evenings now watching sunsets beside a man she barely knew, yet somehow trusted. Arav's presence felt like a quiet song she hadn't heard in years. No loud promises, no dramatic gestures, just stillness, kindness, and the way he looked at her like she mattered. She made her morning tea and opened her sketchbook. It had been months since she drew anything. Her hands moved slowly, unsure at first, but then her pencil found its rhythm. She began sketching a woman on a bench, hair blowing in the wind, a notebook resting in her lap. Just then her phone buzzed. A text from Arav. "There's an art fair this weekend. I thought of you. Want to come with me?" Maya stared at the message. No pressure, no assumptions, just an invitation. She typed back, "Yes, I'd love to." Saturday arrived with soft clouds and a cool breeze. Arav met her outside her apartment. He wore a navy shirt and simple jeans, holding 2 coffee cups. For the road, he smiled out as they walked through the art fair. Maya's eyes lit up. Paintings, handmade crafts, sculptures all filled the park with color. She stopped in front of a painting of a tree with broken branches. The artist stood nearby and explained, "It's called Still Standing. It's about surviving loss and still finding beauty." Maya stared at it for a while. "I feel like this tree." Arav looked at the painting, then at her, and still, it blooms. They kept walking. Maya opened up about her childhood, how she used to paint beside her mother in their small living room, how she stopped after her mother passed, how life became about surviving, not dreaming. Arav listened, not interrupting, just holding space for her. Then he shared his own story, how he used to play the violin as a child, but after his father left, he stopped. How he became quiet, always observing, never speaking first. Maya smiled. "So you've always been this silent stranger," he laughed. "Maybe, but I'm learning to speak again. They sat near a food stall and shared a paper plate of roasted corn and lime. Maya watched a group of children run by, laughing. One little girl stopped, looked at her and said, "You look like a princess." Maya's eyes widened. She bent down. "Why?" "Because you smile like one," the girl said and ran away. Arav watched her. "That's true. You know." Maya looked away, her cheeks warm. "You make it easy to smile." As they were about to leave, Arav bought her a small handmade pendant, with a tiny paintbrush carved into it. "I saw this and thought of you," he said, placing it in her hand. Maya held it close. "It's beautiful," he nodded. "Like you." The moment stretched, neither of them moved. The crowd faded in the background, but then, suddenly, Maya's phone rang. Unknown number. She picked it up. "Hello," a familiar voice spoke. "Maya." "It's me, Roal." She froze. Arav watched her expression change. "I need to see you," Roal said. "I made a mistake. Can we talk?" Maya's heart raced. Her past and present were colliding in one moment. "I'll call you back," she said, and hung up. Arav didn't ask anything. He just waited. Maya finally said, "That was him, I figured," he replied. "He says he made a mistake." Arav nodded slowly. "Do you believe him?" "I don't know," she whispered. "I waited for years for him to see me. And now when I've finally stopped looking, he comes back." Arav looked at her gently. "It's okay to be confused." "I don't want to hurt you," she said softly. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Maya, I'm not asking you to choose anything right now. I just want you to choose yourself." She looked at him, tears in her eyes. "I don't know what that means yet." "Then take your time," he said. "I'm here, even if it's just as a friend, even if it's from a distance." They walked back quietly. When he dropped her home, he didn't try to touch her or say anything more. He simply said, "I'll wait, but only if you want me to." That night, Maya lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. She held the pendant in her hand and thought about both men, one who returned because he realized what he lost, one who appeared because he already knew her worth. Her heart was at a crossroad. She didn't know which road to take, but she knew something had changed. She wasn't the same woman waiting for love anymore. She was slowly becoming someone who could choose it. The question was, would she choose her past, or the man who met her in silence and made her feel seen without saying a word? The next morning, Maya sat in her garden with a cup of tea, watching sunlight filter through the leaves. Birds chirped softly, but her heart was anything but calm. Roal's voice still echoed in her ears. "I made a mistake. Can we talk?" Part of her wanted to ignore it completely. Another part, the one that still carried for years of shared memories, felt curious, even guilty. She picked up her phone and stared at it. Finally she typed, "We can meet for coffee. Tomorrow, 4 p.m. She didn't tell Arav. She didn't even tell herself what she was expecting. Maybe closure, maybe answers, maybe nothing. The next day, Maya walked into the cafe Roal chose. He was already there, looking the same but older somehow. Not by age, but by regret. "Maya," he said softly, standing up. She nodded and sat down. No hug, no smile, just quiet. "I'm glad you came," he said. She stirred her tea. "Why now, Roal?" He leaned forward. "Because I was stupid. I panicked. I let go of something real because I was afraid of, I don't even know what, but I've been thinking about you every single day." Maya looked at him, her eyes calm. "Do you even understand what you said to me that night?" He sighed. "Yes. I said something unforgivable. I called you too old, like you were a number and not a person. I hate myself for that." She didn't speak, letting the weight of silence press on him. "I see you now," he continued. "What I had, what I lost. I want another chance." Maya put her cup down. "You didn't just break my heart, Roal. You broke my belief in myself. You made me feel like I expired." "I know," he whispered, "and I'll never forgive myself. But if you let me, I'll spend my life trying to fix what I broke." Her eyes filled, not with hope, but with sadness. "And what about what I've built since then?" He looked confused. "What do you mean?" She stood up slowly. "I'm not the same woman you left, Roal. I've started healing. I've met someone, and he didn't ask me to prove my worth. He just saw it." Roal's eyes darkened. "So that's it? You've moved on?" "I don't know yet," she said honestly, "but I do know this going backward won't take me forward." She left before he could say another word. Her hands trembled as she walked out, but her steps were firm. Later that evening, she stood again at the hilltop. Arav wasn't there, yet she clutched the paintbrush pendant around her neck. When he finally arrived, she turned to him with soft eyes. "I met him today." Arav nodded, "and I listened," she said. "He said he wants another chance. He said he regrets everything." Arav looked down. "What do you want?" "I want to stop feeling like I need to be chosen." She said, "I want to choose myself." He smiled, even though it hurt. "That's all I've ever wanted for you." She stepped closer. "But there's more." He waited. She took his hand. "The way you make me feel, it's different. It's quiet, safe, not loud like before, not uncertain, just steady." He looked into her eyes. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" "I'm not promising anything," she said, "but I'm choosing this. I'm choosing to see where it goes." He didn't hug her. He didn't rush her. He just nodded and said, Then we walked together, one step at a time. They sat down, side by side. As the sky turned gold and pink. Maya pulled out her sketchbook. I drew something. He looked at the page. It was a tree, with broken branches, but new leaves growing. It's called Becoming, she whispered. He gently touched the corner of the page. It's beautiful, like you. They watched in silence as the sun dipped low. Just before darkness settled, Maya asked, "Why didn't you ever give me the notebook yourself?" Arav answered, "Because I thought you'd never see me." Well, she said, "I see you now." But just as the moment deepened, Arav's phone buzzed. His expression changed. He stood up quickly. "I have to go." "I'm sorry." "What happened?" Maya asked, confused. He hesitated. "It's my sister. She's been in an accident." Maya's heart skipped. "Is she okay?" "I don't know," he said, already walking away. "I'll call you." And then he was gone, just like that. Maya stood alone in the growing dark, clutching her sketchbook, her mind racing. She had just opened her heart. Now, a shadow had entered their story. She didn't know if he'd return. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But one thing was certain, this was no ordinary love story. And it wasn't over yet. Maya couldn't sleep that night. The silence of her room was louder than ever. She kept checking her phone, waiting for a message, a missed call, anything from Arav. But there was nothing. Not even a single word. She tried to convince herself it was just a busy night. Maybe he was at the hospital. Maybe his phone had died. Maybe he just didn't have the strength to talk. But the longer the silence stretched, the heavier her chest felt. By morning, she still hadn't heard from him. She debated calling, messaging, but stopped herself. He said he'd call. He would. To distract her mind. Maya picked up her sketchbook and started drawing again, but her hand hesitated. She didn't know what to draw. The piece she had found over the last few days now felt distant, like a dream she wasn't sure had happened. Later that evening, her phone finally buzzed. "AARAV, I'm sorry, it's been a terrible day. My sister is stable now, but still unconscious. I didn't want to worry you until I had something real to say." Maya read the message 3 times, then replied, "Thank you for letting me know. I'm here if you need anything. Truly." There was no reply after that. Over the next 2 days, she sent small messages. Simple words, no pressure, just presence. He responded, but it was brief, polite, tired, distant. By the 3rd day, the messages stopped. Maya stood once more at the hilltop park, watching the sunset without him. The bench felt colder. The sky was still beautiful, but emptier somehow. She tried to tell herself it wasn't personal. He was hurting. His family needed him. But a quiet fear had started to grow in her heart. Was he pulling away? Had she imagined everything? That night, she opened the notebook again, not because she wanted to spy, but because she needed to remember, needed to believe it was real. She flipped to a page near the middle. I watched her sit in silence. I wondered if she ever knew how powerful her quiet was. People talk so loudly when they want to be heard, but she listens, and in her listening, she heals others. Maya closed the book, tears in her eyes. He had seen her long before she had ever seen herself. But now, she didn't know where he was, or what he truly felt. She went back to the park the next day, and the next, but he didn't come. 5 days passed. On the 6th day, just before sunset, Maya heard her doorbell ring. She opened the door, and there he was. Aarav. Tired, unshaven, eyes sunken with worry. "Maya," he said softly. She didn't speak, just stepped aside and let him in. They sat in silence for a while. Then he spoke. "She woke up last night. My sister. She's going to be okay." Maya let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. "I'm so glad," he nodded. "I stayed by her side every day. I didn't want to leave her." "You don't have to explain," she said gently. "I do," he said, finally looking at her. "Because I disappeared. And you didn't deserve that." She shook her head. "You were going through something important. I understand." "No, Maya," he said, voice rough. "That's the thing. I didn't disappear because of the accident. I disappeared because I was scared." She froze. "Scared?" she asked. He nodded. "When you said you chose this, when you started to open your heart, I panicked, because I never expected you to actually choose me." Maya felt a sharp twist in her chest. "I've been invisible for so long," he said, "loving you quietly, never asking for anything. When you finally looked at me, it felt too good, too fragile. I didn't know how to handle it." She swallowed hard. "So you ran, not just from you," he said, "from myself. From the risk of losing you, after finally having you close." Maya stood up and walked toward the window. Her voice was quiet but firm. "Do you want to be with me, Arav?" He stood too, his hands trembling slightly. "More than anything. But I have to be honest with you, I'm still learning how." She turned. "I'm not asking for perfect. I'm asking for truth, for effort, for presence." He stepped closer. "Then I'm here. If you'll still have me." There was a long pause. Maya looked at him really, looked past the tired eyes, past the fear. She saw the man who watched sunsets with her, the man who bought her a pendant, shaped like a brush, the man who wrote down silent words instead of speaking them. She took his hand. "I'm not perfect either," she said. "I still get scared. But I'm not going to run." He nodded, eyes filling. They held each other quietly for a long time. Later that night, they sat on her balcony, wrapped in a shared blanket, sipping tea. Maya opened the notebook once more and handed it to him. I read a little more, she admitted. He smiled shyly. I figured. There's a line I can't forget, she said. You wrote, maybe love isn't about being chosen. Maybe it's about being found. He looked at her. I meant that, she nodded. I think we found each other, just not in the way I expected. He leaned his head against hers. Maybe that's the best kind of love, the one that finds you when you stop searching. They sat in silence as the stars began to appear. But deep in both their hearts, a quiet question remained: was this just healing, or was it truly the beginning of forever? Neither of them knew yet, but they were finally ready to find out. Together? Maya woke up the next morning to sunlight gently falling on her face. For the first time in weeks, her heart didn't feel heavy. Arav had returned not as a silent stranger, but as someone willing to stay, even with his fears. She turned and saw the paintbrush pendant resting on her bedside table, and next to it the black notebook. The things that once brought her questions now brought her peace. She got dressed slowly, choosing her favorite blue cotton kurta. Her hair was loosely tied, her face fresh with no makeup. She didn't need to impress anyone today. She just wanted to be herself. Arav was waiting at the park bench when she arrived. This time, there was no hesitation, no polite smiles, only the easy silence between two people who had finally stopped pretending. You look rested, he said softly. I slept like a rock, she replied, laughing. I guess heartbreak really is exhausting, he smiled, and healing is a kind of rest. They sat down together, watching the kids play nearby, couples strolling, birds flying above them. For a moment, the world felt calm, then Arav turned to her with a serious expression. There's something I need to tell you. Maya's heart paused. What is it? He looked straight ahead, taking a deep breath. Royle called me. Her eyes widened. What? I think he found out we've been seeing each other. He asked to meet. Why? Maya asked, stunned. To warn me, Arav said, bitterness in his voice. He said, you're still not over him? Then I'm just a rebound. Then I'm wasting my time. Maya felt anger rise in her chest. He has no right to say that. He walked away. He gave up his place in my life. Arav nodded. I told him the same, but I could see the doubt in his eyes, and for a second, I felt it in myself too. Maya grabbed his hand. Arav, listen to me. You are not my backup plan. You're the one who saw me when no one else did. What I feel for you is real, and I'm not going back to someone who only saw my worth after losing me. He looked at her, searching her eyes. Then let's not let him define anything between us. No more fear, no more half-steps. Maya took a breath and then said something she hadn't planned. Come meet my dad. Arav blinked. What? I want you to meet him, she repeated, smiling nervously. He's old-fashioned, protective, but he'll see you if I do. Arav hesitated, then smiled back. Okay, let's do it. Later that evening they drove to her father's small house on the edge of town. The garden was neat, the windows shining. Her father, Mr. Bashir, stood at the door with his arms crossed, already looking skeptical. Maya hugged him tightly. Abu, this is Arav. Arav stepped forward, offering his hand. It's an honor to meet you, sir. Her father looked him up and down, then shook his hand firmly. Let's see if you deserve that honor. They sat in the living room, tea in front of them. Maya stayed quiet as her father asked questions about Arav's work, his family, his intentions. Arav answered everyone with honesty and calm. Then came the hardest question. Do you love my daughter? Arav didn't flinch. Yes, sir, I do. But more importantly, I respect her. I admire her, and I will never make her feel small for being who she is. Her father stared at him, long and hard. Then he turned to Maya. And you trust this man? She nodded, with my heart. After a pause, Mr. Bashir softened. Then he is welcome here. Maya breathed out a laugh. Thank you, Abu. They left a little later, and Maya squeezed Araf's hand as they walked to the car. You survived. Him, he's not so scary, Araf said, chuckling. Back at her apartment, Maya invited him in. They sat on the couch. No rush, no awkwardness. I never thought I'd let someone into my life again, Maya admitted. Not after everything. I never thought I'd be brave enough to try, Arav replied. There was a quiet moment. Then Arav reached into his bag and pulled out a small wrapped box. What's this? She asked. Something I've been working on. Open it. She unwrapped it slowly. Inside was a small canvas painting. It showed the hilltop park at sunset. Two tiny figures sat on a bench, hand in hand. Above them, in soft brush strokes, were the words found, not chosen. Maya stared at it, her throat tight. You painted this. I wanted to remember the moment we began, he said. She threw her arms around him, and for the first time, she let herself feel the full weight of joy. They sat like that, wrapped in warmth, knowing the world outside was still complicated. Here, in this quiet space they had built together, it was simple. But just before Arav left, his phone buzzed again. He glanced at it and frowned. What is it? Maya asked. It's from an unknown number, he said, reading it aloud. She deserves better. I won't let her settle. Maya stood frozen. That's him. That's Royle. Arav looked at her. He's not going to stop, is he? Maya clenched her fists. Let him try. Arav placed his hand on her shoulder. We'll face him together. As he left for the night, Maya locked the door, her heart calm despite the storm that might come. Because this time, she wasn't afraid. This time, she wasn't alone. Maya sat by the window the next morning, her fingers wrapped around a warm cup of chai. The sky was cloudy, and a gentle drizzle tapped against the glass. She watched the water slide down, her heart steady despite the message from last night. Royal was trying to shake what she had built, but it no longer scared her. She had come too far to let fear pull her back. Arav messaged her early. He sent the same message again. Word for word, she replied. He doesn't know me anymore. Let him watch who I've become. That afternoon, while she was sorting old sketchbooks in her closet, her doorbell rang. Thinking it was Arav, she smiled and opened it only to freeze. It was Royal, standing in the rain. Uninvited Maya, he said, his voice low. We need to talk. She didn't move. You sent those messages, didn't you? He stepped forward. Yes, because I see what's happening. You're about to throw everything we had away. No, she said firmly. You threw it away. You don't get to guilt me into coming back. I loved you, he said quickly. No, she repeated. You loved the version of me who stayed quiet, who waited, who shrunk herself to fit your world. I'm not that woman anymore. Royal's jaw tightened. So this is it. You're choosing him. I'm choosing me, Maya said, not backing away. And he's the one who reminds me every day that I deserve to be seen, not just accepted. Royal looked like he wanted to say more, but the door behind Maya opened, and Arav stepped in, holding an umbrella and a bag of groceries. The air between the three of them turned heavy. Aarav froze when he saw Royal, then calmly walked to Maya's side. Afternoon, Arav said with quiet strength. Royal narrowed his eyes. You think she's yours now? No, Arav replied. She's hers, and I'm lucky she lets me stand beside her. Maya stepped forward. This conversation is over, Royal. Please don't come here again. Royal looked between them, finally realizing he had no place left in her life. With nothing left to say, he turned and walked away into the rain. Maya closed the door gently and let out a shaky breath. Arav placed the groceries down and touched her arm. Are you okay? She nodded slowly. I finally am. They sat in the kitchen afterward, sharing the meal Arav brought. It wasn't fancy, just homemade pasta, soft bread, and her favorite mango juice, but it tasted like comfort. I wanted to ask you something, Arav said between bites. She looked at him. He pulled out a small envelope and handed it to her. No pressure, just read it when you're ready. Maya opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. This isn't a proposal, not yet. This is a promise. To walk beside you, wherever life takes you. To never silence your voice. To never ask you to become someone else. If someday you feel the same, I'll be waiting. Not for you to choose me, but for you to choose yourself. And let me walk with you. Her eyes filled and she placed the letter gently on the table. Arav, she said softly, I don't need time to decide. I already have. His eyes met hers. I choose you. Because when I broke, you didn't try to fix me, just sat with me in the pieces. And in doing that, you helped me heal. He leaned across the table, took her hands in his, and said nothing. They didn't need words anymore. A few weeks later, Maya hosted her first small art exhibit at a local cafe. Her pieces were personal sketches of sunsets, empty benches, trees with broken but blooming branches. At the center hung the piece Arav had painted. Found, not chosen. Friends came. Strangers stopped and stared. Her father stood proudly in the corner, telling anyone who would listen, that's my daughter's work. And Arav stayed by her side the entire evening, not to be seen, not to be praised, just to be there. That night, as they packed up, Maya turned to him and smiled. Remember when you said love begins in silence? He nodded. I think ours began in the pause. Between heartbreak and healing, that tiny space where I decided to live again. He brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. And I'll spend my life honoring that choice. Months passed, seasons changed. Some days were quiet, others full of laughter. But through all of it, Maya never felt small again, because love didn't rescue her. It reminded her she never needed rescuing. She had always been enough. A woman once called too old, now blooming like spring after the longest winter. And by her side, the man who never asked her to change. He just waited for her, to see herself,